It's 1 o'clock, which is the scheduled time for us to begin. So I call this meeting to order. We'll have a roll call. Edie.
Yes. Katie Ashley. Present. Hal Bynum.
Here.
Chris Caldwell.
Here.
Moniece Hagler.
Here.
Devin Majors.
Here.
Art Sparks.
Here.
Julia Wells. Here. You have a quorum and complete attendance.
Thank you. Just to remind you, in the past, we've had to have a roll call vote each time because we've had somebody on the phone. We technically do not have to do that, so we will not do a roll call vote unless there's a change in the bylaws or anything, which I do not anticipate that happening. I believe previously given to us and also in your booklet are the approval of the minutes, and I think it's the minutes for the last two meetings, the one that was our initial meeting plus the meeting that we had the last, I think, 16 minutes to approve the methodology for the student. Do I hear a motion concerning these minutes? I don't think we have to if there are no changes to them on these. That's it. We can ask our attorneys. So we can do them individually or collectively. It doesn't matter.
I would recommend accepting this.
Okay.
And I'd move for the minutes of the inaugural meeting approval.
Okay. She has made a motion for the inaugural meeting minutes to be approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do I hear a motion on the special call meeting?
So moved.
Okay, we have a call. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. After we've got the minutes taken care of, we have Lauren is here with us today. She is the person that's going to take Devin's place at our next meeting. What I'm going to do is ask Keith maybe to give a little background on Lauren Carter.
Lauren, would you mind standing? Lauren Carter was selected. We all know the process we utilized through the Student Government Association. Lauren was one of three that interviewed. Lauren is an out-of-state student from Ripley, Mississippi, and I think has been very involved in SGA, and I think is going to be a fantastic member of our advisory board. Big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. Definitely, right? So, but we really welcome and thank you for being here today.
Chancellor, I believe you've also had a student here that has taken your place.
That is true. If I may tell the board, I'd like to introduce Kiana Hope. Would you stand up? Kiana is a senior from California. She is studying electrical engineering, will be graduating on May the 4th. She came here from California to run track and cross country, and Mr. McGuffin will tell you she's been a fantastic example for a student athlete, but also for a student. She participated in a contest and was selected as chancellor for the day. So I am filling in for her. So I've gone to her engineering classes this morning, which was really scary. And she'll be with me the remainder of the afternoon. So Kiana is just a great student. I'm happy to be in her shadow.
I've talked to several students and several faculty members, and it seems the university is running really well today.
That's right.
Poor thing.
That's right. Well, let's get to the agenda.
With your permission, I'm going to let your assistant. We have a couple of things that Keith is going to present to us, and it's the UT board update on the process for our advisory board to submit a recommendation to the president on the proposed strategic plan, and then ultimately on the annual operating budget. So Keith.
Sure. On March 1st, the UT Board of Trustees met here, and I wanted to go over the steps in the process for approving or modifying the strategic plan. The UT Martin is just a point of information, the strategic plan was approved back last June, in June of 2018, by the board. I was asked to give a update to the strategic plan at this past board meeting at the orientation, because basically all new members were present for that. But let me just go through and we can follow through the workbooks. Obviously the UT boards is responsible for approving the strategic plan for each campus, and then Tennessee law under our new act requires for the advisory board to submit a proposed strategic plan recommendations to the UT president. So after updates, if there's any modifications, that sort of thing, those come here. What I would do is I would submit a new or modified strategic plan to the advisory board for consideration. It's probably a good activity for our next meeting is to get a bigger update. Then this board would consider the proposed plan and adopt a recommendation for the chancellor that would eventually be submitted to the president. So if the board decides not to recommend the proposal or the modification, I would consider the advisory board's feedback before deciding whether to modify the plan before submitting it to the president. I'll tell you that these are really good to have in here for now or for the future, because while we are developing this route for the campus, we do need feedback and recommendations. I don't anticipate in the short term there being revisions, but certainly as market forces change or demographics change, or maybe emerging trends in higher education, there could be modifications. So I think this is important to consider. But this board's approval and endorsement is really important.
This is what we're here for. Actually, both of the items that are in Roman numeral 4 and 5, I was very pleased to hear that we were going to be able to have some input. You know, I was afraid at one point in time that we were just going to be a rubber stamp or something, but I truly believe that we have the opportunity to make some changes and make some differences for not only this university, but the students and the alumni of this university. By the way, if any of those pictures show up with Keith and I in the same picture at the same time,
There are some provisions in there if the advisory board does not approve the plan steps. I could submit modifications back to you all, and then you'll accept a recommendation. If I would then submit that to the president with the recommendations. If the advisory board recommendation to the change is not positive, I would need to submit a written explanation of why I'm submitting it without a positive recommendation from the advisory board. I think that's really important.
I understand that our concerns would be communicated to the president.
That's right.
And the advisory board.
That's exactly right.
I think before there was this type of board, how did you do the strategic plan? Did you do it with staff and so forth, or what did you do?
We did, and fortunately, I was able to sit down twice, with you and Crawford once during the process. But then as it neared the end, I sat down with the vice chair, Gibran, and Joe DiPietro. So before the meeting, and then sent out, of course, the plan prior to the meeting so people could see it and ask questions. What will probably happen in the future here is as we reboot or look at some sort of strategic plan refresh, we probably have a member of the board on that planning process. Well, we wouldn't probably, we would have a member of the board as a part of the strategic planning process. So someone from this group would be present at the meetings and be engaged in that all along the way.
That's a good question. Very, very
So
good
what's the
question.
timing of that?
Well, probably what we could do, we'll talk with Chairman Sparks, but we could look at even our fall meeting, doing an update on the strategic plan. It's just almost a year old now. We gave an update for the faculty and staff at town hall just a couple weeks ago. It's on the website there. We keep everything on that website. But I think for you all, sending you all that, but maybe as a large item at one of the upcoming meetings, just do that. And at this point, it's more of a report out of what's happening. And probably at the 2-year point, maybe next summer, looking at doing a refresh. And that's where I think engaging you all in that process, or one or two of you in that process, but also bringing that, if we do any modification to it, we would have some rules, guidelines to go by for that.
I
I'm
think that-
assuming, excuse me,
No, go ahead.
I'm assuming that if something significant happened on this campus, you can change your strategic plan at
Oh, yes.
any time.
Mhm.
Accommodate
But I think
that.
it's good to have a group to bring those concerns to and talk about it before we do a pivot and have people weigh in. So, and certainly our campus community would be doing that, but you wouldn't want, anything major. We certainly would want to run through this exact process.
This is in fact a plan, which is an implication that it's what we want to do, which will be ever changing. And I think the longer that we are involved with this process, the better we will get at determining exactly where we need to go and who we need to be. And I think this is a great start. The involvement of people that are not necessarily within the university, but on, exterior, I think it's a great step. Okay, Keith, do you want to cover item number 5, which is the budget, or how do you, we're going to get to the budget with you, but if you can explain the process to us.
Sure. How we're looking at the proposed annual operating budget as related to the UT Martin campus. The steps are our UT CFO will distribute instructions to me, to our campus during the annual budget development process, which looks at the format and timing of the advisory board's recommendations to ensure consistency to going to the annual board meeting in June. And then in accordance with the policy and the CFO instructions, the chancellor and campus budget personnel, in this case, Peter McPherson, will develop the campus proposal for revenues, expenditures, and transfers, and tuition mandatory fees for inclusion in the overall UT budget. I would present the campus proposal. Peter and I would present the campus proposal to the advisory board for consideration, and then the advisory board would make a recommendation on the proposal during a meeting, during a regular called meeting. I would submit the advisory board recommendation on the campus budget proposal to the president for review, along with the original campus plan. And the president and chief financial officer for the system would consider the advisory board recommendation on the campus proposal while finalizing the annual overall UT system operating budget. The president has the sole authority over the operating budget presented to the chief financial officer to the UT board.
So Chancellor, you said that happens in the summer meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and so would assume that we would receive a presentation the spring meeting that we have from you about budget.
That's right. And this year it's a little compressed based on when we're having our meeting and when the June meeting is. But Chairman Sparks is going to discuss that in a minute.
We will actually discuss that in item number 8 down here. But it is compressed, like he said, just because of the way things are set up. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Any questions for Keith? Any other questions?
I have a question. So the requests that go to the governor, to the legislature for their funding. I'm assuming that this is your operating budget here, the funds that you have or are receiving.
That's right.
How does that happen?
So, say a new engineering building request or things like that, we would still appeal directly to the president about needs. I would hope to utilize this board to discuss, propose if we needed a new nursing facility, if we needed to talk to that group and inform that group, because it needs to be based off our, we'll need to make sure there are true needs. But anytime we do that, we have to provide a feasibility study to the CFO and to the president. And then we work directly with the president to do that capital project list. In some years, some campuses do better than others, but it's been a fair process. And then the president will present to THAC and the state constitutional officers a prioritized listing of system requests. And that would probably remain the same, but I think it would behoove me to inform this board of where we're thinking of going. So, but that would stay basically the same.
Any other questions of the chancellor?
And Julia, this year, I was reminded by all of our peers about that wonderful new engineering building that was received. So I said, well, that was last year. So
What have you done for me?
that's right. It's a good question.
Then let's look at item number Roman numeral 6, which is the fundraising report. And I will ask Andy Wilson to come forward and go through his presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Board, for allowing me to come and speak with you about advancement, the advancement division. Appreciate this. The UT system, UT Martin is part of the UT system. Just so you know, the UT advancement group is part of the UT Foundation. And everyone in the advancement division reports up to me, and then I report to Keith, and I also report, I have a direct dual report to Keith, the chancellor, and to the president of the foundation, which is Gary Richard. So just to put that in text for you. When we have new board members in our foundation board, usually in the fall, we bring them in, and each vice chancellor talks a little bit about each of their campuses, and sometimes people aren't real familiar with each of our campuses. So this is the presentation, or a similar presentation that I give to our new board members at our foundation board meeting in the fall. So this is kind of orientation. So there's a lot of things that you're going to know and recognize, but I want to go through those things quickly and get to the meat of the matter. So at the very beginning, there's going to be some meat, some fluff, and then some meat at the end. So we'll go through this pretty quickly. Wanted to show you where the student body is for the state of Tennessee, and you can kind of see that our West Tennessee counties are very much accounted for over here. The highest number of our students is obviously Weakley County, and then down here in Shelby County is second, and then the rest come in at second, third, or third and fourth on that list. And I wanted to show you this because I wanted to show you the next slide, which is the alumni, where our alumni are. Our alumni are very heavily in West Tennessee. There's 32,000 Tennessee residents who are alumni. There's about 9,000 that are out of state, and then we have a few that are out of the country. But you can see that out of that 32,000, most of those are just in our West Tennessee region. Just a few stats on our student body and our diversity. Our ACT, very proud of our ACT score. The state norm is 19 and the national is 20, well above the norm for those. Our retention fall to fall, 73.7, and I know you all are aware of that and looking at those stats. Tuition, a lot of people don't know what tuition for the university is. I'd like to throw that in there, kind of give people a benchmark on where we are. And then also that debt, we hope that through our efforts in fundraising, that we're helping with some of the student debt with our scholarships that we raise too. What are we? Share a little bit about what we are. When we were founded, a lot of interesting information there for people that aren't familiar with us. And then where we are, sometimes there's people that really don't know where Martin is, and we try to educate them on that, but also on the footprint that we have. And we looked at the alumni and our student geographic area and how we really serve the West Tennessee region, not just the Northwest Tennessee region. 37% of our first generation are students, and when you look at the stats, when they come in as freshmen, it's 37%, and our graduating class is 37%. So I'm not sure if it's the same group or not, but we're graduating right there at that 37% group, and we hope that through our efforts, we're helping with this group too. Our product succeeds, and you all are living cases of that. And we throw up a few of those people that have helped with FedEx musically, artistically, athletically, arts and the arts. Of course, everybody knows about at Summit. And we have a rich tradition here at UT Martin. And through our alumni association things, we try to build upon those traditions that we have. UT Martin, we will be doing a campaign. The Chancellor, I believe, is doing this in the right chronological order. What I mean by that is you all were just talking about the strategic plan. The campaign should mimic that strategic plan. And as we look at the campaign and moving the campaign forward, how is it going to advance that strategic plan? And there's ways in there that we'll be able to help, and then there's other ways that we won't. But those that we can, we want to focus in on and talk about. So we have hired Gonzer Gerber, a consultant, to come in and talk with some of our alumni and donors and kind of evaluate where we are in the campaign. They'll talk with them about these priorities. So they may go to someone and they'll talk about scholarships, engage the amount of enthusiasm they have for scholarships. Maybe it's the innovation and product realization building. Maybe it's the fine arts and so forth. And they'll be gauging their excitement towards those. We'll also be testing an amount. What is that amount that we should have for the overall campaign? So we'll be testing that, see if maybe we're reaching too high, maybe we're not reaching high enough, and they'll be doing that. They'll also be evaluating myself and our staff and our division through the university. So these are the 7 priorities that we'll be testing right now with that group. Fundraising over the last 5 years, you can see we had an engineering and science building here somewhere. We had a large gift for that. And then last year we closed at $7.5 million. The goal this year is $7.5 million. We're at $5.6 million. There was a large gift a few weeks ago that UT Martin will have a portion of that, which will put us over $6 million right now. So we have another few months to get the rest of that, to get to that $5.5 or $7.5 million. And then wanted to show you a little bit about, well, that's good, but where are you compared to your peers? And there's a group out there that is set that are our peers, and this is over the last several years. And I was able to just now get the data for 2018. I don't have the data for this year. It won't be available for another year. But I wanted to kind of just show you where we were. This week, we just surpassed our goal for the number of donors. So our goal was 43 donors, and we got 4307 this week. So that's the most donors we've ever had at the University of Tennessee at Martin. So, but when you see 2,500 here, this is an indication of our alumni. This is the alumni givers. And right now we're at 2,500 alumni givers year to date. So when you look at this, so this is us and this is our peers. The outlier in all of these, this is the Arkansas State University. And then on the next slide, I want to show you our alumni giving percentage. Our alumni giving percentage was 6.2 in 2018. And you can see the outlier with Arkansas State out here, but the rest are below the University of Tennessee at Martin. on our alumni giving percentage. But then we have our peer group, but we also have an aspirational group. You know, that group of the University of Tennessee at Martin that we look to, maybe aspire to, and look at how they're doing things. And I just wanted to note that we're well above our aspirational peers. And I did go ahead and look to see where we were with our UT peers, such as Knoxville, Chattanooga, Health Science Center. We're below the Health Science Center in Knoxville, but we're well above Chattanooga. Wanted to show this. This kind of shows the health of our endowment, the health of the foundation. And this is looking at our peers. So you can't be more average than us, at least on the our endowment per student. We're right here. And then you can see the others that are lined up around here. And some of those are Austin Peay, Morehead State, Frostburg State, Arkansas State University, Texas, and at Tyler, you also have the West Tennessee A&M and Midwestern State University. So those are that group. The average for this entire group is $61 million. Our endowment's $45 million. And then you can see it's about $7,000 per student.
Can I insert something in that? Our endowment was $45 million because we're able to invest in a UT consolidated pool. We're able to get in some funds because we're co-invested. We're in the same funds that Knoxville Health Science Center. We're all able, because of the portfolio, we can participate in some funds that some other schools that aren't affiliated with the system our size might not be able to. So that's a blessing.
And that particular endowment's $1 billion. So our portion is $45 million. Excuse me. I did want to introduce you to our team. This is our team of fundraisers. There's 5 of those. This is the team of fundraisers here. This is our assistant vice chancellor, and then we have some other fundraisers here too. And we have 4 that are working for us in the alumni department, and we're looking to hire a director in the next few months for the Alumni Association. And our Alumni Association is really understaffed if you look at their group compared to other universities. You may see some that have 4 or 5 in their alumni division, but they don't have the annual giving part that our Alumni Association has. So that's that group. Here's a picture of all of them. Wanted to show them all. It's a little bit older picture. We've lost some of them, but we've gained some that aren't in there, but we'll get new pictures there. I wanted to thank you all for allowing me to share a little bit about what's going on. I know this is a high view. Hopefully when I talk to you in the future, excuse me, we'll get more there. Any questions? Oh, thanks.
And yeah, I appreciate your sinuses, but, okay.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, the 2017, I assume, has the engineering building in there.
It does. Yes, sir.
Okay, which, in the absence of that, would have pulled us back to about 4.5 million, which is about like our growth has been from 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Yes, sir.
What happened in 18? Is there a large gift there? That's number one. And number two, do these gifts include only money that has been collected, or are, if somebody walks in and leaves you $1 million in their estate, which may not come for 20 years, is that money in here?
Good question. The 2017 includes $6.5 million. That was a one gift for the engineering science building. We did have a record year last year. I can go into a lot of detail on that, but some of that makes up planned gifts. Let me tell you how we count, how it's counted. So if someone makes an outright gift, so you give us $100,000, you give us $100, that goes into that. If you make a pledge over several years, so if you make a 5-year pledge for that $100,000 or the $100, we count the entire amount of that pledge this year. So if there's a $100,000 pledge last year, the whole $100,000 is there. But they only gave us $20,000 that year. So that $20,000 they gave us this year is not counted. So we don't double count there. With a planned gift, if we know about the planned gift and they declare that planned gift, the entire amount that's declared is taken in that year. And that's where we have a lot of that growth.
Do we ever have an analysis of where somebody agrees to go the full 5 years but only pays 3 years and decides to not continue their gift? Is there ever any accounting? Is gift retention, for lack of a better
Yes,
term?
we look at that. We look at that pretty often. I mean, I don't know what our rate is for that, but that is something that we look at very carefully. And we usually have that conversation with them. And so it does happen.
How much of the 7.5 do you think was actual cash?
It was a little over half.
Okay.
Is that typically how universities count?
Yes, yes. And that's the way that, the way that counts is, that's the work that we do. So that's the work, so you're evaluating really our staff in the university on how much work has been done that year. So that's the work that they did this year. And that's how we count it across the system.
What is Arkansas State doing when we're not? Because they seem, and I realize they're a larger university. They seem to be the one that's.
They are
in
the
charge.
outlier. I don't know what they're doing. There's some other slides that I could show you on there. Their alumni association is twice what ours is. So I think that has a lot to do with what's going on.
One other thing, they've just, if you've been over to Jonesboro lately, they have built a lot of new buildings and have been in extensive campaign mode for about 10 years on new facilities. And I'm guessing a lot of that is investment in the capital project, private investment in the capital projects. But that place doesn't look like the Arkansas State that I went to 30 years ago, visited 30 years ago.
So you're saying if we started a football facility that exceeded 90,000, we probably would have a lot more gifts.
Kurt, Kurt just passed out.
Any other questions for Andy? Okay, very good.
Chairman Sparks, I might ask that Andy get to the board that gift retention rate. Maybe
Yes.
as a follow-up. Okay, that'd be great.
That would be great. Okay, the next item on here is the enrollment management strategies. I believe Jamie Mantoo is here. What you gonna do?
And Mr. Sparks, I also requested not to have any pictures made with Keith. I can appreciate your request.
Well, there's more similarity for some reason.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jamie Mantoo. I'm Executive Director of Enrollment Services and Student Engagement. And before we look at the forecast for our new students for the fall of 2019, I want to provide a bit of context. And I'll do that by comparing applications, admits, and enrolled for freshman and transfer for 2018 and 2019. Ooh, I think that was the last slide. There we go. All right. In fall of 2018, we received a total of 7,705 freshman applications, which is about 3,000 more than we received the previous year. Well, how did we do that? We did it like this. Through a partnership with the Educational Advisory Board and some fantastic work by our own University Relations Office, we greatly increased our marketing efforts. For the second year in a row now, and you'll see the header of this slide says fall 19, and we've tweaked this since fall 18, since that campaign, but we did some similar things in fall 18 as well. But this is the second year in a row where we are reaching out to every eligible high school sophomore, junior, and senior across the entire state of Tennessee. The entire state is our primary market. And then narrowing down, you can see in the yellow there in West Tennessee, the local areas that have been good to us over the years, and we continue to nurture and cultivate those relationships. The out-of-state markets are divided into two tiers, with the dark blue having been more beneficial to us with areas such as the Olive Branch, Mississippi area, some of the Arkansas Delta region, Paducah, Kentucky, Southern Illinois, St. Louis, and the Louisville, Kentucky areas. Well, has this worked? As of Monday, 2 days ago, we have received 8,869 freshman applications for fall 2019, which is an increase of 1,164 from fall 18. These numbers have been updated from what you see on the slide and what you may have in your packet. And you can see from this map that the Memphis area contains our largest concentration of applications, followed by the dark blue areas, with fewer applications with a lighter shade of blue until we get into gray and white. Well, applications are nice, but how many of those did we actually admit? Here's what we did in 2018. Remember that we received just over 7,700 applications for fall 18. Now our goal was to enroll 1,078 full-time students, and in order to reach that, we needed to admit 4,813. We actually admitted 5,533 and enrolled 1,124 full-time students, both of which exceeded our goals. Well, what about a status check for 2019? I'm so glad you asked. Remember that so far we have received 8,869 applications for fall 19. Our goal is to enroll 1,158 full-time students, which is a 3% increase from fall 2018 freshman class. And to reach that, we're going to need to admit 6,000 students. And so far, we've admitted 5,740. So we're on our way. Since we cannot yet count an enrolled number for 2019, we can count those who have responded positively to our intent to enroll survey. The survey is an initiative that we launched a couple of years ago in an attempt to try and predict the number of students that we would actually have enrolled. This survey is have proven to be over the past couple of years about 80% accurate. As of Monday, 1,172 have told us that they're coming to UT Martin. On this same day last year, there were 1,100 who told us yes. So we were trending ahead. We were trending positively toward our ultimate enroll goal of 1,158. Now, let's look at transfer students. In fall of 2018, we received a total of 1,159 transfer applications, which is 121 fewer than we received the previous year. As of Monday, 2 days ago, we have received 686 transfer student applications for fall 19. A point-to-point comparison to this time back in 2018 shows a 3% decrease in transfer student applications. There were 704 this time last year. However, our number of admitted transfer students is exactly the same as where it was last year at 672. In 2018, we admitted a total of 725 students, transfer students, out of the 1,159 applications that we received. Our goal was 857, and we fell short of that goal. We did enroll 474 full-time transfer students for fall 18. So let's see how we're tracking for fall 2019. Our goal for fall 2019 when it comes to transfer students is to remain flat. So you can see that we lowered our goal of admitted students to 725, which is the exact same number that we admitted last year. This is the time of year when transfer student applications really begin to increase. Here's what I mean. Now you see on this slide, which is as of about 3 weeks ago, we had admitted 296. As of Monday, that number had increased to 672. Transfer students are starting to make up their mind about what it is that they want to do. As with freshmen, we cannot yet compare an enrolled number for the fall, but we can still look at confirmed. And for transfer student, confirmed means one of two things. They have either responded positively to the intent to enroll survey, or they have gone ahead and registered for classes for the fall 19 semester. That confirmed number is now 269 and is a 6.6 increase from this same time last year. So you can see we're trending positively in the right direction for transfers and freshman students for fall 19. Now here are a few things that we are working on now and will continue to work on for the next 12 to 18 months. The first one is we have entered into a partnership with Ruffalo Noel Levis to create a strategic enrollment plan. We already work with Ruffalo Noel Levis for financial aid leveraging, so they have a strong understanding of UT Martin. This process has already begun with the data collection and analyzation already underway. Other things that we plan to explore are going to be academic program demand, market share analysis, retention analytics research, and the creation of an academic pipeline committee to make sure that our course offerings are matching demand. The strategic enrollment plan is going to focus on undergraduate, graduate, online, our centers, and the retention, progression, and graduation of those students. Next is a transfer student boot camp that we are planning for this summer. THEC is actually providing funding to help us with this new initiative. The overall goal of the transfer boot camp is to enroll more transfer students, and you can see what our student learning outcomes are there on the slide. Remember back in 2018 that we admitted 725 transfer students and enrolled 474 of them, which is 65%. And we can do better. We can do better than that. And this is one initiative that I believe can help us do a better job of engaging, enrolling, and retaining our transfer students. Inclusion is a core value for UT Martin, and we strive to embody that in our work. One event that we have resurrected back in 2016 is the Red Carpet event. This is a partnership with the Black Alumni Council and several campus partners, including student affairs and alumni affairs. And for this event, underrepresented students are brought to campus for an overnight experience, which includes a variety of activities and events that are designed to introduce them to higher education in general and to UT Martin in particular. And our numbers so far indicate that about 15% of the students who attend this event actually enroll at UT Martin. So this is an event that we intend to continue. And last month, we had an introductory meeting with Reach Memphis. Reach Memphis is an organization that helps high-achieving students from Shelby County to succeed in high school and prepare for those next steps, which often includes higher education. And until now, UT Martin had not been part of this conversation for them at all. But an email 2 weeks ago from their executive director, which followed an on-campus tour and meeting, this email indicates that we are now part of this conversation, including sending some of their students here for different summer experiences with the ultimate goal of helping them to enroll at UT Martin in the future. The Harold Connor Scholarship and the Coleman Opportunity Scholarship are both intended to increase the enrollment and retention of underrepresented student populations. The Harold Connor Scholarship has been around for a number of years. The Coleman Opportunity Scholarship is new, and we just started it this year. And we are finalizing the details on a new professional position that will be a part-time admissions counselor, part-time student affairs program advisor, and this position will recruit and serve new and currently enrolled Hispanic students. And we're excited about the possibility of this new position. And then finally, we have our new relationship with Re-Up Education. Re-Up Education partners with universities to find and re-enroll students who have dropped out, and then to support them once they re-enroll to ensure successful student outcomes. And what's different about this company, and one of the primary reasons that we signed on with them in the first place, is that there is no upfront cost. Re-Up Education, they bear the responsibility of reaching out and enrolling these students, and they're only compensated by delivering the results, and in this case, results means re-enrolling these students and helping them to progress towards graduation. I think UT Martin has done good work over the past couple of years of improving our enrollment numbers and the student transition experience. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Jamie, what do you think the biggest challenge that you have that we could help you with?
The biggest challenge. One of those biggest challenges would have to be our scholarship models. When we've compared our scholarships to those in the state and our peer and African institutions, the percentage of the tuition covered by our scholarships is less, and in some cases far less, than what scholarships for similar ability students are in other schools. So our actual yield rate on students in the high band of ability, those with 29 and above on the ACT, is not very high, because those are your sought after students, and other institutions are offering more money. But given what we have, we're still working hard.
You know, as part of the strategic plan that we will see, while we want all the students we can get, how many students can UT Martin handle from an infrastructure standpoint and without having to incur major capital expenditures. I mean, is there been any kind of study on that?
We had initially, when you look at our total number, right now around 7,000 students. Internally, we have talked to getting up to 8,000 students.
Are those here?
That would be here as well as the center.
Okay.
We have not maximized and that's one of the things this plan will do. We have 5 centers in these communities that have been there, some have been there 15, 20 years. What this plan will do is not only help us here in Martin, but also recruitment and retention plans for each of these cities. There's a little bit of everything there. You get some high school students that come on right out of high school that come to a center, but we have a huge opportunity in returning adult populations in those areas that we haven't tapped into yet. We have an opportunity to provide distance courses through technology in each of those centers. And now we're even getting into, we just entered an agreement with Southwest Community College, where Southwest Community College is coming in to our Somerville Center, right there next to Shelby County, and teaching chemistry now. And so I think you're going to see some opportunities to work with the community colleges on our sites to grow. So now granted, I think what we have to be cognizant of is growing our full-time enrollment. We certainly want the returning adults, but looking at ways to get up our graduate enrollment. Our graduate enrollment, we have right about 238 students in grad school. Yeah. So, and with 5 programs, so expanding those graduate programs, getting more full-time and getting aggressive with our recruiting and marketing of those graduate students. And so we've taken the graduate school on the road, Katie. This month, we did 2 sort of cohort showcases in Nashville with legislative interns and new staff for our strategic communications masters. A lot of interest in that for better promotion of our MBA. So we think with some focus, what we know about the state is at about 2025, the traditional 18-year-old population is going to start going into a pretty steady decline until about 2035. And then there'll be a slight correction. So we've got to focus on masters. We've got to focus on out-of-state, being attractive to out-of-state traditional age students, and bolstering online as well. The biggest thing that's going to move us forward is increasing our retention rate, getting more students through and graduating. So we've got a pretty big 18 months ahead of us. I'm excited. I found in my 2.5 years, I sort of like this recruiting stuff. I discovered I'm pretty competitive too. I kind of liked it. So, but I think we've got a really good team, but I think this strategic enrollment study is going to show us how we can make our team work smarter. And we're probably going to have to add some staff too. But Andy's going to raise the hand for that.
There you go.
How have the numbers looked since the first cohort of Tennessee Promise students finished up with their associates and transferred? Have we seen?
Not what you might think.
Okay.
There's a couple of different theories on that. One of them, which is the one I tend to buy into, is students are not completing in 2 years at community college the way it was originally anticipated. It's taken them 3 years, and then in that case, we're still not seeing the transfer numbers that we thought we would see. I think there's some opportunity there for us, but if we look around the state, some of our competitors are in the same boat. They haven't seen a huge bump in transfer students.
Is there a plan to try to address the discrepancy in the scholarship differences so that we are competitive?
It is. One of the things that we're doing, well, last year we looked at retooling our offerings, and we did an analysis on what we lack and what we need to make up. And so to remedy that, that's a long-term thing. But short-term, our advancement team has been out requesting, we've created a Chancellor's Academic Excellence Fund, and as people give to that, so we've got this pool. So if we have the 2031, that's come in and they're looking at University of Memphis or us, we're able to make some merit-based decisions on that. Now, long-term, we've got to get everything up.
Right.
But we needed a stopgap, and it's been helpful to be able to take $1,500 and give to the student and get it up. So short-term, that's what we're doing it with the Chancellor's Fund, but then long-term, working on all of our scholarships. And that's what a big priority in the campaign is, bringing it up to bear. I would like to say, Debbie, am I from the press here? Okay, good. That's okay. It's safe to say. Safe to say. When you look at our regional public competition, regionally, even with the discrepancy in scholarships, we still have our entering freshman class with ACT and GPA are still better than our regional competitors. So we've been able to attract quality here, even with a little less. Now, that's not always going to play out, so we've got to work hard. See, I didn't call any names.
Right.
Institutions, so.
And just as a side, I heard that one of the universities is offering a first generation scholarship. I saw that we have 37% of those coming in.
That's right.
That's going to be competitive.
That would be really good.
How is that number compared to the other schools that you were looking at? Is that first generation, is that number about the same?
We're actually, we're above average in the state. We're on the high, towards the high end of the state. And our Pell number is towards the high end for the state as well. As a matter of fact, we may have more Pell eligible students than any other public in the state. Is that right, Jamie? We're number one?
I believe, I don't know, is that right, Amy? I'm going to defer to you.
Really close, if not.
Okay. So our 48% and 52% of our class that entered last fall are Pell eligible. So high financial aid here. So, yeah.
Scholarships notwithstanding, how do we compare value-wise to our competitors?
We're competitive out of state. Murray, when you look, head to head, Memphis dropped their out of state. Austin Peay just drastically dropped their out of state. But even with those, we're within still $100 or so of those out of state. In state, we're slightly higher than Memphis and Austin Peay, but not much.
But we're in Martin, not Clarksville.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
If I can circle back to Katie's question,
Yeah.
one thing that we're interested in seeing what develops with enrollment in a couple of years of 2020 is this UT Promise, and just seeing what effect that will have on us. Will that draw students who had been going to community colleges with the Tennessee Promise? Will that now draw them back to the UT schools? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm very interested to see how those numbers play out.
So because of the high percentage of Pell eligible students in this area, there's a lot of potential there.
No good.
Well, what happens to that student though if it takes them longer than the 2 years? Are they getting funding to continue?
I get it for 5 semesters, so technically 2.5 is the stop point for those Promise students.
And then they have other requirements, community service, and things that they meeting with an advisor that they have to do as well.
Any other questions for Jamie?
You mentioned Harold Connor under diversity. That scholarship used to say the scholarship's available to Black Tennessee high school students. Now it says preference is given to students from underrepresented groups.
Correct.
What percentage of those who get that scholarship are from underrepresented groups?
They all are underrepresented. That would be first generation, that would be African American.
So you're counting first generation as underrepresented. Okay. So if you exclude them, what percentage is going to underrepresented?
To our Black students?
No, well, to basically non-white, non-international.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
Okay.
I can get that to you.
Okay.
So there are scholarships available now for first generation?
Yeah, Harold Connor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Jamie, does the Chancellor's Facebook page hinder you at all, or?
We all have our cross to bear.
I would invite anybody that's not a friend of his, because the Christmas vacation, what was that? Thank you, Jamie, appreciate you doing a good job.
Jamie, will you send that number to the group?
I sure will.
Yeah.
The Chancellor's making notes of any questions, things like that, that we have, and he will certainly get those to us. Now for the budget, Petra, I would assume is here. We have Petra McPherson. She's the one that writes the checks for any shortcomings we have.
That's right, that's right.
I would also like to add that I also try to avoid pictures with the Chancellor. Speaking of his Facebook page, the last time we were photographed together, the picture was posted to Facebook, and there were a lot of comments about trying to figure out what he was saying, and the expression on my face was trying to figure out what he was saying. So
I was laughing and gesturing wildly, and Peter was behind me with a little
all right, so I will just kind of give you an overview of the budget for the university, and then also talk through some of our plans going forward next year. Our base budget is close to $100 million, and I'm bringing attention to the base budget because that is the amount of money that we expect to come year after year. The university engages in a base budget process where recurring costs are planned, and then there are some fluctuations for non-recurring things where it may be carried forward or other non-recurring things that happen during a year's time. The largest percent of our budget is comprised of our tuition and fees, and that is a large part of what we have come in, followed by our state appropriation. So as you will see, roughly 60% of our budget is contingent on our tuition and fees, and a $35 million amount, which is close to the percentage of 35.4 of our budget is funded by state appropriations. We also budget a balanced budget, so whatever our revenue is what we budget for our expenses and our transfers. So the bulk of our budget goes towards instruction, followed by, we have quite a bit of money that we do have in scholarships, although there's a shortfall or a shortcoming, comparatively speaking, with other institutions. It is also followed by an investment in academic support, and our physical plant requires quite a bit of our resources. So just to give you a little bit about how our state appropriations, since that's the second largest funding source for us. Prior to 2010, the state of Tennessee funded us based on our enrollment. It was strictly a subsidy per student that we received in PASS. And then in 2010, the Complete College Act was enacted, and it converted to a formula based on core outcomes. So now our formula is based on students accumulating 30, 60, 90 hours, as well as the number of degrees we have awarded, our research and service, degrees per 100 FTE, and then our 6-year graduation rate. So all of those factors are part of our state appropriation formula. We also are rated on a 3-year average. So it's not just whatever the previous number is. There's a 3-year average that's used when they're calculating our formula. So for next year, the coming year, our funding formula will allow us to net about $700,000. We were eligible for $1.7 million, And based on a number of factors in our progression through the formula, it was roughly a $900,000 reduction, where we are actually receiving about 7.7 based on the government's recommendation. That is not necessarily the final number because there's some recession, but that is what's recommended for us. Additionally, to the point asking about our capital budget, the UT system has a recommendation of $10 million for security and safety measures. So that amount of money will be divided among the different campuses and institutes within the UT system. So based on our formula changes added to our base appropriations from the previous year, our state appropriations would be $35 million. And that excludes any special funding we have for our centers of excellence and diversity and access to diversity. Moving on to our tuition and fees, which of course, as I mentioned, comprise a large part of our budget, the most significant part. And a lot of times when we discuss the fees, there are mandatory fees that nearly all of our students have to pay. With the exception of our dual enrollment students and our online students, all of our students, whether on campus or at the centers, have a mandatory amount of money that they must pay. And $1,046 goes towards our program and service fees, which includes a student activity fee, our green fee, debt service, and things of that nature. Our technology fee is a separate amount at $250, and these are all annual amounts. If we have full-time students, undergraduate, there's a publication fee that they pay, as well as a facilities fee that helps. There's a part of it that helps with actually campus improvements, and then there's another part of it that actually is a committee-based fee where departments are able to make submissions about classroom improvements and things that are academic spaces that would allow upgrades for those areas. So we have various peer groups, and this year we're looking at our admissions peers, where we look at and we talk with our admissions department about who do you all consider your competitors, and comparing our tuition and fees and mandatory fees with that group. As you will see, it ranges from most of our in-state universities, as well as a few of our out-of-state, including Murray. Mississippi State was one of the ones that came up earlier, and actually North Alabama is another one that they've identified. So comparatively speaking, we're at 9,512, and we're pretty kind of average with a number of our institutions, a little bit more than some of our state competitors, but of course less than most. So then the next peer group is a group of peers that were identified by similar makeup and several different attributes that our academic affairs area worked to identify that were similar to us, and just kind of making sure we compare to them. So we actually use this comparison for a number of things, whether it's tuition and fees, salaries, there are other academic measures that we kind of use to benchmark where we stand in comparison with this group. And then, as Andy mentioned earlier, we have the aspirational peers of different universities we aspire to be. Murray's being one of those schools. Southeast Missouri is another that we look at. So we still actually look to other institutions to see where we are in comparison to those areas.
Peter, can I make a quick case in point? This year, we anticipate the Kentucky schools and the Missouri schools and the Illinois schools to make a considerable jump in their tuition increase just to offset state decrease in funding to public higher ed, and where ours will remain somewhat stable. So I wanted to point that out.
So moving forward to the coming year, we are requesting a 2% tuition increase and a maximum of 2.5% between the tuition and mandatory fees. 2% of that would be in our actual tuition, or maintenance fee is officially the name of our in-state tuition. And in comparison with that group, it would actually move us to $9,750 for the academic year. And so this is how we would measure with our other comparable peers. And again, assuming that they also have a 2.5. We have to make assumptions because they haven't announced either. But we will still stay about where we were before. And the same with our aspiration. So one of the things that we would like to do is propose, and this is kind of one of the things that comes from the recommendation that we would move forward. Our maintenance fee for undergraduate would be an increase of the actual maintenance fee of the 2%, and overall the mandatory fee and tuition would be 2.5%. Our graduate maintenance fee would also increase at the same rate at 2%, and again, the tuition and mandatory fee would be at 2.5%. Our out-of-state tuition itself, which is the differential between our in-state maintenance and the full amount that they pay, we're not requesting an increase of that amount. So any increase that they have is because the maintenance fee portion or the in-state portion would increase. And similar international, we're not requesting an increase to the out-of-state portion. So just the maintenance fee, because all students pay the in-state rate, and then anything that is the tuition rate would be an additional amount based on them being out-of-state. So only the in-state portion would be increasing in all of these instances, as well as one portion of our mandatory fees, which would be student activity. Our proposed budget for next year is also based on a base budget, and we're projecting our revenue and expenditures, again, we budget those to be equal, would be $101 million, with our auxiliary close to $11 million, and then our restricted funds, and a lot of that will be our grants and contracts, and some of our federal funds that come in would fall into that category. So our current operating budget that we anticipate, and there may be some adjustments because we're actually in the middle of putting that budget together for the system. Right now, we're estimating to be $147 million. Are there any questions?
Petra, when I noticed that we had a discount or a reduction or something from the state funds, I'm assuming that has to do with retention.
Yes, a large part of it is.
I've got a question that I probably should know, but I don't. What if a student goes to UT Martin for 3 years and gets a pre-vet, but doesn't get a degree, but then transfers to UT Knoxville? Does that hurt us?
It actually does, because we do receive credit for them progressing
Right.
through our formula and accumulating hours, but we do not get credit for them in our degrees per 100 FTE in our graduation.
Let me ask you another way. Does UT Knoxville Veterinary and Science get credit for them getting a degree?
Yes, they do. Now, we do have two partnership or agreements that we will start. Our 3+3 program would actually be a dual case where we will receive credit with the law school. Martin would receive credit, and then Knoxville would receive credit. So if those agreements are in place for a formalized program, then both institutions will receive.
Which would seem fair. Okay.
From a system level, that's one of the things that Academic Affairs is looking at. With THEC too, they're always sort of give and take and work, and how can we retool things. And then several years ago, we committed additional tuition dollars to really be put toward retention efforts, student success counselors, through that 15 and 4, Soaring 4 initiative, internships and career services, career planning across the way, things that could help us start improving retention. And there's a 3-year lag in the data. And so hopefully these changes that we're making and will continue to make as retention improves, so will our formula, performance in the formula 3 years later will improve. But yeah, our performance in the fund formula, there was an additional $700,000 that we could have achieved, hit different marks. And
I thought it was like 991.
It
I
was.
thought we got 700.
We got 7, that's
Yeah,
right.
$1 million.
Numbers reversed there, yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing those reports on tuition later in the year when you actually find out what the other institutions are doing. Because obviously, if we're higher than everybody else, but you raise everybody 2.5%, we're going to be higher than everybody else on there. And I'd like to know, because I've heard the same rumblings out of Kentucky, that they probably have some pretty good increases coming because of some budgets and things like that. But I think that would be interesting to know from that standpoint.
What was the increase in tuition from last year to this year?
We had a 2% increase,
2%.
and we did very little on that.
Okay.
And THEC also sets how
Yes.
much we can increase our fees. There's a maximum amount that THEC sets for public institutions within the state.
Was it 3% last year? 2.9, 3%?
It was 2.8 or something
Right.
like
Below.
Yeah.
Below.
I can tell you just from the conversations at the legislature's level, I mean, they are really concentrating and keying in on tuition and the increase and hopefully a lack thereof when it comes to institutions, especially when you look at the amount of funding that institutions receive from the state. And so it seems like over the past couple of years, they've really started to kind of comb through every single institution to say, are they doing everything they possibly can to try to cut or contain costs at the campus level versus before you have to go into that, tuition increase. So it's just something to be mindful of.
Go ahead.
I got a couple. So on the formula, it's a relatively small percentage of the budget, right? We're talking about, we could get 1.7 million. Is it the case that it's still best when we're recruiting students to focus on quantity, not quality? I'm saying one way of improving each one of those would be to bring in better students.
Yes, because they typically persist better. And
Yeah, so I'm just saying, but in terms of looking at the model, are we still better off focusing on pure quantity?
No, quality because of the progression, because if you bring in.
I'm saying there are projections for enrollment all focused on quantity, not on quality that we just heard. So should we have a focus also on quality?
I mean, we need to have both. We need to have
Okay.
quantity and quality.
Well, I know it's easy, yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
there isn't a
I'm
single.
asking though a simple
input.
modeling question. Which gets you the most money?
Oh, definitely quantity.
Okay.
But the competition's greater there.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I just,
And I think too, you know, when you look at the mission of Grant Public Regionals, it's really about, you know, recruiting and being somewhat an access piece for your region. And so I think there's a combination. I'm thrilled that our ACT and GPA have remained where they have, despite, you know, in parallel with our increase in freshman enrollment. I think that's really important. It's a good question, though.
And I think I heard Jamie say or something that our ACT, the 23.5, is pretty respectable compared to our peers.
I'd also like to ask you a question about the composite financial index here. Unlike my colleagues here, I'm not a budget person. So, you know, when the board's doing the composite financial index for the different campuses that they've been doing for 3 years, you know, our net operating revenue ratio has been negative all 3 years. Yeah, that's the operating surplus or deficit divided by the total operating revenue. Do you expect it to be negative next year? Any idea how negative we're talking about? So the last 3 years, it's gotten more and more negative each year. Are we talking about?
Well, I think a large part of it will be determined by how much money we pull.
Yeah. No, I understand it's a trailing indicator, so I'm asking you to do something extremely difficult. But you know, it did add up to 10 million over the last 3 years. So we talking another 3 million?
We will
6
actually
million?
work together to try to limit how much
Yeah.
we actually use and carry forward money. Because we will use all that we generate this year, we will need
Yeah.
that because we have to make some investments in order to grow the university. How much that is, we will definitely try to limit that amount of money so that we can make those investments but still see growth. It is difficult for me to.
No, I understand. That's a very tough question. I also understand that the Board of Trustees looking at it, we're actually very positive, right? I mean, you know, like the chair said that, you know, anytime you see operating losses, UT Martin, you need to be concerned about it, blah, blah, blah. But I am excited about where you're going and what you're able to do. I'm not alarmed by it. So, I mean, they said lots of positive things. At some point, will you share with us some part of the plan that's being developed with the system to address?
Sure, we actually will work on a 5-year plan for Martin. And then, yes, that will definitely be shared. But next year, there will likely be a deficit in terms of operating deficit because of the funds that we will need to use to invest in the year. But going forward, we plan to see growth because we will have enrollment growth because also of that 3-year average, our enrollment number, the class that has come in has been larger.
Yeah.
So the progression, so we anticipate, depending on what the state does, will actually bring us additional state appropriations. So there will be growth, but it'll just be gradual growth over a period of time. We will be working with the CFO for the system, as well as the Vice President for Academic Affairs to help in the conversation of how we chart that path.
And Chris, the CFO, David Miller, and Linda Martin the Vice President for Academic Affairs are actually coming here in the next week, and we're having an initial conversation with the cabinet, which includes faculty member Renee LaFleur as faculty senate president to discuss that. But again, well aware of it, but I think they're encouraged with what we're planning and want to see us be really successful.
My question really, was not suggesting any doom and gloom. I'm just saying that if we're supposed to have some comment about a budget, looking at the budget, I just didn't see those particular numbers there. And maybe the rest of you did. I just don't see them. And that's just why I was asking.
The CFI was not included.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that wasn't, but I'm just saying everything else looks like, well, there's a perfect balance. And
Well,
what more could you ask?
Chris,
So I'm just saying, it's just my ignorance.
the teacher's been very eloquent in what she said. It says, the chancellor. You gotta understand, a governmental entity, I hate the word budget.
Yeah.
Because the budget is really just an approval of expenditures that teacher can do. It's not really, not necessarily what she anticipates happening. And this goes all the way from a governmental entity like UT Martin to the city of Martin, where the city of Martin has to adjust their budget based upon actual expenditures. And again, all that is the authority for the city recorder to spend money. What she's not saying either, we've all been around this university, and we had some really good growth. And I feel for the people that are the CFOs and the teachers, because they were budgeting based upon our continued growth. And UT Martin a few years ago had a couple of hiccups, and we all know that they did. And her position and the chancellor's position was very difficult to do because you didn't know how big a hiccup it was and how many students we were going to lose. But we had less students there for a while, right, teacher? And so I think that probably created some of the problems. And I think the whole answer, as I believe everybody thinks the whole answer is, we got to have more students, and we got to have better students. And if we can do that, I think we can make Petra's picture with Chancellor Carver not look as concerned as she was on that. But I mean, this is something that we didn't get to overnight, and we're not going to get out of overnight. But I can assure you that or I believe that Petra is very concerned, as is the Chancellor, on getting that on the positive side.
But the reason I'm asking is, I'm getting here, I just saw 7 years of decline in a row. But I also saw budget go up 7 years in a row. It seems to me at some point, you say to yourself that, well, maybe we're not going to grow out of this. Maybe we ought to address the cost issue, improve efficiency, pick a different size as our target. And I don't know, I'm just kind of curious at what point you start considering those issues.
Well, I think,
so 6
the
years later,
attitude is-
7 years later.
I think the attitude is to grow.
Yeah.
I think Jamie sort of pointed out some of the things that they are spending money on to grow.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And
No, I absolutely understand that. I'm just saying, he brought up the example of the city.
Yeah.
At some point, you just realize, hey, we're not going to grow. And let's deal with it.
cost containment is important.
Yes.
Even if, I would say to Petra, even if you showed a profit, I would say cost containment is still important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think an important thing too to remember, and Dr. Caldwell, you were there, is one of the things the board charged us with, all the UT campuses with, increase the number of graduates from your institution. UT 2030 increase the number of graduates, and I believe we can do that. How are we going to do that? Well, retention is a big piece of that. Being smart about recruitment and enrollment strategy, tapping into these new areas. But we've got to do these things to increase our increase our graduate head.
I understand that, but again, you're the third administrative chancellor in a row that said, that's it. You know, that this will be our approach. That we've taken a while to get in, it'll take a while to get out. And I'm just saying that it's at some point.
I like the trends today better than I like the trends 2
Well, I
years
agree.
ago.
Yes.
Period. Any other questions? One of our charges, and I apologize for reading, but I will. Under Tennessee law and the bylaws of the UT Board of Trustees, the UT Board is responsible for approving the annual operating budget for the University of Tennessee, including tuition and fees for each campus. Tennessee law further requires the Campus Advisory Board, in accordance with the process established by the Board of Trustees, to submit a recommendation to the President on the proposed annual operating budget, including tuition and fees, as it relates to the campus. The President and Chief Financial Officer will consider the Advisory Board's recommendations on the campus proposal while finalizing the annual operating budget proposal for the university. If the Advisory Board's recommendation differs from the campus proposal, both will be presented to the President and considered in finalizing the annual operating budget to be presented to the Board of Trustees, which is more or less a repeat of what Keith said earlier. There is a motion under the action items in there that I hope that you guys have looked at. The motion has changed slightly through a recommendation by me, because I think I heard Petra say that the presentation she made is not the absolute final budget, that there are still some things that have to be changed. And I think, as Keith said earlier, one of the advantages that we will have next year at this particular meeting is possibly be a little bit later, and we will have a little bit better idea of what the final budget is. But is there a motion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Moved.
Okay, what motion are you making?
The
one that's in the
motion,
book. Okay.
the motion that's in the book.
Okay. All right, I have a motion. Is there a second? Okay. You didn't call for a question, did you?
No, I have.
Oh, yeah,
questions.
good, good. Okay, well, ask away.
Okay, looking at the resolution, it indicates that there may be minor adjustments that the chancellor will have up to 5%. Now, is that up to 5% outside of the 2%, or is that 5% in the category? How does that?
That's a good question. And let me expand that. I hope that someone will potentially make an amendment to the motion that says that prior to the chancellor's submission to the president of the board, that the budget as changed will be sent to each one of the advisory board members. Not for us to make any decisions on, because we could not do that outside the sunshine law, but if there were to be significant changes, picture comes back and cuts it from 147 million to 100 million, we probably need to sit down and talk about that. So we would actually have to have a call meeting to be able to do that. But we can actually amend to take the 5% out if you would like, Monique, because again, I hope that they are able to get the final budget to us prior to submission. Because I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to review it, look at it, and put our 2 cents in prior to going to.
And I wasn't in particular considering taking it out. I just wanted to understand what it actually meant.
I think it means 5% of the bottom line.
Of the bottom line.
Are you suggesting for the amendment then that as long as they stay within that 5%, that we not see it, or?
No, I am suggesting that we see the final budget, period. Even if it moves $1, period.
Okay.
I'm simply saying that we have to acknowledge by passing it today that there could be some changes. And I think if we pass it today, we are acknowledging that if there is less than 5%, that it will be approved, but we will have the opportunity to undo what we've done if he sends something out and it's not plausible, not reasonable.
Okay, so.
I struggle with
if
trying
they-
to figure out how to do this.
If they send it to us, and I know we have to operate within the sunshine law, but what is the procedure here if two of us wanted to call a meeting and say, okay, we want to discuss this further?
There is a mechanism within the bylaws that allow two members can actually ask that we call a meeting, which I think is in there for this reason. The real purpose of my Julia here is I didn't want him to submit it to the president as it's written right now. At the same time, he submits it to us.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a little opportunity to look at it.
Okay, is it appropriate to amend? It's appropriate to amend before we vote.
I think so. That's the Sparks Rules of Order. I'm not sure what Robert says.
Okay, I would like to amend this motion then with it having a procedure that the advisory board has access to it before it is presented. And I would say it probably needs to have time limit, not just the day before.
Yeah.
With adequate time to review.
Okay. Now, is there any further discussion on the amendment? Is everyone clear? The amendment simply says that we will get it prior to the presentation to the president. So we will first vote on just the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any further discussion on the motion as amended?
One, just point of clarification. The budget's 147 million, 5% of that is X. I don't do that in my head. You know, that would be 5% by category item, right? Not.
We're actually, it's actually 5% of the bottom line because the budget that we've been presented is a very summarized budget.
Okay. You know, 5% of the
$7 million.
5% of the entire budget, $7 million. If that was all in tuitions and fees, that would be a very large number percentage.
Right. And I don't anticipate that. Peter and I talked about this yesterday. I think if anything, because they have to present a balanced budget, there may be some adjustments up or down on the revenue side. And then it will be up to Peter to determine exactly where those expenses. But at the end of the day, again, I dislike the term budget for a governmental entity. At the end of the day, those two numbers are going to be the same.
And didn't she also say there was a cap on the tuition and fees? There's only.
Yes.
Okay.
But we are voting on the budget and the 2% increase on the tuition and the 2.5%, I think, on the mandatory fees, and then the other fee increases on out of state, which were less than 2%, and on international students, as I understand it. Is that correct?
This is very foreign to the budgets that I do.
It is very foreign to most for-profit budgets because you budget your revenue, you budget your expenses. And again, when they approve this, Petra technically cannot spend a dime. She can't make payroll out of this until the budget is approved, which is her authorization to spend money. For-profits don't work that way. I tell you.
Just not the way I'm used to reading.
Trust me, I understand. Yes, sir.
So if we approve this with this set of tuition and fees, you know, if that means that they cannot reduce these, even if there's some type of pushback from the legislature, so I mean, we saying you have to increase these by 2.5%?
I don't think we could do anything, but if the legislature comes back and says, you got to cut tuition by 1%.
No, I'm saying not that, but I'm just saying if they say, hey, we plan on punishing the campuses just do it, and then the campus decides, hey, it would not be to our advantage to raise, once again, when Knoxville doesn't, and UT's,
That would,
Tennessee doesn't.
that would be one of those external forces
Yeah.
that would come about that we would have to readdress. And I'm sure if they were.
But we
saying-
would have to readdress it, they're not allowed to drop it. Okay.
Chris, they can make
This amendment-
adjustments to the budget.
Yeah,
This amendment is gonna
Yeah.
give us the opportunity to see
To
that, and
review.
we could have a call meeting if something
Yeah.
like
to
that
review,
happens.
that's right. 2 members.
Called special meeting, only takes you or the chancellor,
Oh, okay.
so you can, either one of
So
you
one
can
of
call
two.
one.
Okay, so Julia, the chancellor or I can call a special meeting, and I can assure you that if you were to call me and say, I'm interested in having a special meeting, that'll be too office concerned. So we will. Is the pay the same? Is my pay the
The
same?
pay is the same, but I would think, Julie, you'd need to let the chancellor know, and he would then
Yeah.
let
Oh, okay.
Chair Sparks know.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Julie
Don't-
will call
don't
you
call
on
me.
email. So, yeah,
But I'll call him real quick.
real quick.
Teacher, one question. What was the increase in student fees last year compared to the 2.5?
Our increase last year was about 2%.
So what is that extra 0.5% contributed to this year? Just growth or?
Well, basically, our fixed cost is what necessitates it. And then additionally, our student activity fee is also a larger increase because they asked for an increase last year. And because we needed to maximize how much tuition we received, the amount that they requested was reduced. So another portion of that, or I guess phase 2 of it, is also increasing our student activity fees so that they can provide more programming to our students.
Okay.
And Katie, Devin, in his tenure as SJ president this year, I think the students, there was a movement by the students to call for more fees, so for more programming, that sort of thing. So that was a student-led, there was a student movement.
There's been a lot of conversation around fees.
Yes,
Yes.
we're well aware.
Understand where they're coming from.
Any other questions? All right, we have approved the amendment. Now we will vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Petra, thank you very much. This has been a very good meeting. Very good meeting. One of the things that, one of the unfortunate things we have to do is every once in a while, we lose one of our board members. And because I think he thinks he needs to further his education in other places and things like that. Devin, we've only gotten to work with you for a little less than a year, but you've been a delight to work for and very good. We look forward to Lauren taking your place, and we would like to present you a gift, which I think I know what it is. And again, I'm very appreciative of the work you put in. Gee, imagine Devin, what are you gonna do with your life?
I still have one more year at UT Martin.
Okay, you do, okay.
I'll stay here around, find something to do for my stress out.
So what are you gonna do when you get out of UT Martin?
Hopefully, I'm looking to go to law school.
Okay.
Actually looking at UT Knox Law School, so that's a possibility there.
I used to like it. That's good. That's, we certainly hope that's for you. Very deserving, and you've been a good addition. And from what I understand, a good leader.
I appreciate it.
Is there any other thing that needs to be brought before this board? The chancellor wants to make an announcement.
Well, the fake chancellor, Tiana.
The assistant chancellor.
Yes, right. Chancellor Hope asked me to announce, 3:00 today, Unity Circle, that's in between Clement Hall Andy Holt. We're going to be doing the groundbreaking on the Greek Garden. We're going to have a great new garden to celebrate the 9 NPHC, the Divine 9 NPHC groups here on campus. Real excited about that. We'll be the first UT campus to do that. Dropped that on Knoxville last week. I'm sure they'll build one next week. When they find out. But we're really excited. We've got a board member of these hackers going to say a few remarks, and would love to have all of you, if you're present, to stay for that.
With that, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.